So this is video 2, and this is primarily about a research trip which I took to Barcelona. So this week we had, I think it's 5 days, we went to Barcelona and just to research stuff surrounding our topic. I took a big interest in the street art that was seen in Barcelona, so you can see along here. Barcelona, the street art is everywhere. People do it, and it's almost a way people express emotion, make their mark within a city. It just shows how they're feeling. It gets their artwork out in the public without actually being put in the galleries. But yeah, it's everywhere. It's almost a more contemporary way, more of a rebellious way people make their mark within a city. So it's getting their opinion across, their artwork, and yeah, it just looks pretty cool. As well as that, I picked up a couple of flyers as well. So these were things getting handed out, different advertisements and stuff, just to see if they were any inspiration at all. I do quite like the way how they're quite minimalistic. Obviously they know there's quite a lot of tourism going, so they keep it simple and easy to read. So as well, while we were there, we were given the opportunity to go into the Picasso Museum. Now the Picasso Museum is very substantial towards my project. So Picasso himself, he's very experimental. He does use a lot of features and faces and people within his work, which is kind of what I wanted to stay away from, but within his work he uses it more in a way that it blends in and it's hidden within the subconscious. So you could be looking at a piece for quite some time and then only just figure out that there is actually a face and then some hands, and it is actually a person, not just a piece of artwork, which I do quite like. And I like how he uses work without making this the focus, and it gives your brain a little chance to realise and doesn't make the person the focus. It's more on the colours and the background and the shapes and the line and how this affects the piece itself, basically. There was a specific selection of work within the gallery. We weren't allowed to take pictures, so I can't show you, but it was a series of drawing. So you would draw an image or a drawing or a picture several times a day, and sometimes it would be the same drawing, sometimes it would be different, sometimes he'd put loads of effort in and others he'd put minimal. And when the image was the same, so it might be the same face over and over again, but different times of the day different lines moved, or there was more aggression, or the lines were thicker or more rigid. And I just like the idea of this could prove his mood or show what type of mood he was in at that time of the day as he was drawing, and slight differences between each drawing, even though they were pretty much identical. Just I kind of like the idea of that. But yeah. So as well as that, once I got home, I did look into some more of Picasso's work, and he did a lot of, well, he started to go into light drawings. So he'd use a long, I think it's called a long lens, whatever. Anyways, he'd draw people, or he'd draw a plant, a vase of flowers, and then people. And I just felt like this linked to the Jackson Pollock idea that I had previously, so with the emotion movement. And I just thought this would be a good way to document it without using all the paints like Jackson Pollock would. So instead of drawing things like plants and people and whatever, I did it with just a light and emotions. So the different ways people perceive emotions and how they would act, and if they were more energetic or more lively or more spiteful, that sort of stuff. So these were my attempts. Some of them, like up here, this one was more of an angry emotion that we used and we linked it together. So again, another angry one. This one was more subtle and just smooth lines quite slowly. And down here you can probably see the slower movements of the shorter, slower vibes or whatever, and the shorter movements and the slower movements as well, because the lines were shorter, which could represent obviously a sadder emotion. They're not wanting to move as quickly, more within themselves. They're not energetic, they're just wanting to be with themselves because the lines are more content. That's what I was trying to portray at that point anyways. This one here, I do quite like this one, and we used the same when looking back at the marks previously in the previous video. We used full shapes as more of a loved together, the whole piece linked together with the whole shapes, and then the circular motion joining everything together. So that was more of a happier emotion. But yeah, with these as well, I did overlay some of them. So we linked them together and I overlaid the different emotions to see what they would look like together. So like I said, this one was more of a sadder emotion with the slower movements with the thicker lines. The more angrier ones with the zigzags and whatever, and slow moving were more of a happier, joyful movements behind the light. And I do like the way the images have come out, but I wasn't expecting this one starting. I do prefer the ones where you can actually see a physical person in the background. So it just kind of enhances what people perceive and what people are seeing within the movements. So it's almost as if, oh yeah, someone's actually doing that, whereas these ones are more just of a line drawing and you're kind of judging it like, oh, they're just lines. You can't really see what's going on. And even though with these ones you can't really see the person's moving, you can't really see the full person, it's just a blur, but you can perceive them there. You can kind of judge them, basing them towards the movement, and kind of see that they're doing them, which I do quite like the idea of. These ones here especially, can you see that? This one here, you can just see the movement with the black clothes in the background, and it's just with the light on top, which is obviously brighter, you can understand the emotion that he must have been feeling, moving side to side, with the anger and the zigzag lines on top. I do quite like that. With that, with the light and everything, I'd quite like to use it somehow. I'm not completely sure at the moment. It did give me a way of experimenting with movement and motion, so I am quite happy that I've done it. I would quite like to use the images again, but we'll see. Maybe incorporate them through light projection, possibly. We'll see. But yeah, so that's the research trip, basically clumped together, quite a short video. Yeah, so well, hope you enjoyed it.